Hello, my name is Labb Ratt, but for this video I'm coming to you as Maya, the Irish woman behind Labb Ratt, and I've been absent majorly from YouTube upwards of 6 months for an entire year nearly. Yes, I know I formally took a break in February, March, but since late August of 2023 I was not me at all. In my videos especially. I took time off to heal and focus on myself because I fell far from the path and got myself involved with the wrong people. Some people who even exploited me for the fact that I make YouTube videos. This is my story. Well, with any story, where do we start? At the beginning, of course. I was born in 2001, but we don't need to use that exactly. I joined the furry fandom when I was 14 years old. I was 13 where I first learned what furries are through cringe compilations which were stupid to say the least. Through that, I got more involved and learned about the furry community. Now, the way I got involved with the furry fandom was never good. I joined Kick, which is like a child jumping into a tiger enclosure, except the tiger enclosure is filled with paedophiles. So when I was 14, I was diagnosed with social anxiety and low mood disorder. Doctors in Ireland are very hesitant to diagnose kids that young as depressed. I also, at this time, lost a lot of my outside friends. I live in a rural village. In 2015, this was when I began YouTube. But it wasn't really a dream of mine. I really began it out of loneliness, to reach out into the internet and try find anyone who would listen. I grew small channels, the highest reaching up to 10,000 subs, which weirdly enough wasn't actually a furry channel. But they always came back down to zero. On August 9, 2019, I uploaded my first video on this channel and the rest is history. Much amount of awareness I can. Quick background, Denver is a furry convention that happens in Denver, Colorado. In the name, it's a relatively new convention. We're nearly 5 years old on this channel. But what happened in the background? Now, 2023 for me started off perfectly. I was in a relationship, I had a good job, I was set for life and I was saving money. But in June, my life changed forever, and in the worst way possible. I was sexually assaulted while on a holiday with my family in the south of Ireland. I had to attend the sexual assault treatment centre, known as SATU, in the Rotunda Hospital in Dublin. I had to tell my parents, my partner, and begin seeing both physical and mental therapy with SATU. And I'm still undergoing the medical side of things for the treatment related. This event changed my life in the worst way possible. I had complete personality switch of who I was, both with YouTube and in my personal life, so it changed me drastically. I became a hateful, vitriolic, spiteful individual, and I began projecting my feelings onto the people that I cared about. I told my partner frequently that they didn't love me, and they didn't care about me. When those feelings of hatred or the fact that they didn't love me were all internalized from my failing self-worth. It clouded my mind and it ruined most of, if not all, the relationships with people that I was in at that time. I say relationships as in I wasn't in a poly relationship with everyone I knew at that time. In order to hide my feelings I was having, I would drink. I drink a lot, and I frequently drink till I threw up. Alone in my room or on Discord with friends, that's all I would do on every weekend, and it never worked properly. Not that there is a proper way to work like that. I also had become addicted to Zolpidem, more widely known in the United States as Ambien. I would lie to doctors and exacerbate my condition to be given stronger sleeping medications that I would in turn then mix with alcohol. Even when I didn't have alcohol, I'd take 2 or 3 tablets and I'd go through a 2-week supply in under 5 to 6 days. I did most, if not all, of these things because of my feelings. My antidepressants didn't help, and in my own words, I wasn't arsed to begin or go through therapy after I'd finished mental therapy with Satu. Instead, I clung to those voices and disconnected myself from reality. Even if it done it just a little bit, I was happy. Just to have those same substances create a snowball effect and destroy my mental health for weeks on end. A poet I really like called Shane Koitskan wrote a poem called To This Day. You probably know it. It's a very popular old anti-bullying poem from years ago, I think, actually. But it was an amazing poem, and in it he said the following. Sometimes being drug-free has less to do with addiction and more to do with sanity. That people don't choose to be addicted, and I didn't. They realise that they don't feel the pains of everyday life when they get plastered or destroy themselves with drugs. They feel happy, and they don't care. And that was the point that I was at. I just wanted to feel that happiness that I hadn't felt. I was teetering on the edge because my choice was either to get drunk and take Ambien or think about the fact that I'm worthless because I got raped, how I'm worthless because I'm trans and I'll never compare to a biological woman, struggling with thoughts of wanting to hurt myself. Of course I would drink. Anyone would drink. Not even the medications that I was on helped me at the time. I just seemingly fell too far into my addictions. I got too caught up and it caused me to hurt the person I held closest to me. I also became quite hypersexual following the sexual assault incident that I went under, and I won't speak about it in depth, but I took kindness and basic displays of gratitude as romantic and sexual feelings towards the people that were giving it to me. It affected me greatly both in interpersonal skills and my work life. So my biggest question that I always get is, why did I leave? This all came to a head around Christmas 2023. I began drinking heavier and heavier than I ever have, and I attended a party on January 6th. Not that type of party. A party hosted by Irish Furries, actually. It's a yearly thing, and it was a good vibe, but I've never been that active in the Irish community. It's not a hateful thing from my point of view, but it's just that I don't feel welcome in that community. I've always felt alone and unable to reach out. But as we're in the UK groups, Dutch fur groups, which I'm now connected to somehow, American fur groups, thanks to the content I was doing, it allowed me to make connections with people. But there's just no connection or even way for me to make a connection with the Irish furries. In the Irish community, I feel devalued, I feel unwanted, I feel alone, and I feel like a burden to the people in the chat that I speak to, and that I even try to speak to. I walk on the thinnest ice imaginable around the 2 Telegram groups they have. But it often feels like everyone already has their friends, and everyone already has their little groups, and whenever I try to make friends with people or speak when there's a group of people speaking, it feels as if I'm forcing myself into those people's friend group, and it never feels good. Many of these people that are watching this video from that community may say, oh well, Labb, the community is amazing and very welcoming and it's so easy for people to integrate and connect. It was for you. I'm glad that you managed that, by the way, and I've been trying for the past 6 years to do so over many different Telegram accounts, but I just can't get in. I just can't make that connection. I don't know why. I always say this when I speak about the Irish furry community, but socially it's manifested almost in a way of being like a high school. There's friend groups, people talk over one another constantly. I've tried to interact with people when the chat is active, but I find my small victories in managing to speak when people are in the chat and it's much slower. This is a lot different to the US, UK and EU furs that I've met. When you reach out, you can find groups that are more aligned to you and more catering, I guess. Make friends, and that's why I've been able to excel everywhere else except Ireland. It's fucking weird. Sorry about my weird little rant about my loneliness and my lack of community spirit for a community that in my mind believes truly hates me, but we'll continue. The event itself was amazing. I did enjoy myself at the start, and still to this day don't remember most of my night. Why is that? Well, because someone had spiked my drink with benzodiazepines, and I apparently became aggressive with members of the party, along with other issues. I woke up in the morning in the Mater Hospital in Dublin to have my blood drawn and my urine taken with barely any memory of what happened the night prior. The doctors then interrogated me about how benzodiazepines got into my system, and the fact that I never took any drugs that night, but benzos, stuff like Xanax, Rohypnol, diazepam, they all ended up in my urine and my blood by some chance. I remember my partner left that morning. I had been discharged and was waiting in the lobby of the hospital, but I knew it was over. I knew my relationship, my friendships were over, and all I could do was apologise for the things I didn't consciously say or do during a drug-induced mental breakdown that was not by my own choice. In the following week after that, I continued to say stupid things, and I was still coming down from the alcohol and benzodiazepines. I do regret and condemn a lot of things that I said, which were mostly threats against myself, and high numbers of suicidality and threats of self-harm. but I was nowhere close to the mental capacity for what I was saying or for any of it to be true. I was still experiencing a mental episode and a mental crisis at that. Benzodiazepines, depending on the strength and type, can stay in the body from 24, 48 and up to 8 days. During that time, I was barely fully lucid. I was experiencing major levels of suicidality. As I said, I felt like my life was falling apart, and my ex and I broke up on January 9th, 2024. We agreed to stay civil and that I could speak to them after a period of time, you know? I have my own theories as to how this changed so violently and so quickly. But the very next day, all my social medias were blocked, all of my friends refused to speak to me, even actively when I went into private Discord servers in stuff like Fur the Crack, run by Mist and other individuals who were friends with my ex, that whenever I went into a group call where there was 5 or 6 of them, every single person in there would mute their Discord and either that or leave into a private call. I was banned later that week. All of my messages would be left ignored by my friends, unread, and I'd gone from someone with tons of friends and prospects away from YouTube and the internet to being fully alone again. I never got a full chance to apologise to my partner for what happened, or actually reconcile with what happened. The entire 6 months, they simply took the 3 calls we had, 2 of which were during my mental crises, and 1 was after. That's what they took as me feeling sorry. But I didn't actually have the proper, or wasn't given the time to properly process one of the most catastrophic things in my life. Eventually I got to talk to them, but I had to fight tooth and nail to have them, to speak to them. Just never at all works like that. There was never any leniency, well, actually more leniency given towards my ex. No one ever listened to my side, and it really fucked me up that happened. What I didn't know instead was that the verdict was already chosen and settled on while I was unconscious in that hospital room. They decided this while never speaking to me once about it, and when I gave my side, breaking down emotionally in calls, it was it had fallen on deaf ears. The reason I allowed the breakup was, instead of trying to fight to keep us together, and possibly hurt the person while I'm trying to heal from both sexual assault and my drink being spiked in January, I wanted for them to be able to have the best spot possible, and that hopefully we could work out as while we're still friends, because I was apologetic and I did want to work it out, but I was portrayed by another person to instead being a narcissistic abuser. That's all I'll say. I've kept completely silent on this, and I've been wanting to work on things myself, and I have been working on things myself. It's why I left YouTube, was to focus on my healing and fixing up my life, because my life had gone astray ever since that happened back last year. Instead, as I mentioned, I was painted as a narcissistic abuser who didn't care about my ex's feelings. Well, I did. I really did. I was never given a chance to show how much I cared. The last call we had in February, he was very angry, and I understand why he was angry, what happened throughout our relationship. But things were being then held against me by one individual and one specific person who portrayed it to a lot of different people in a way that is untrue. It was being held against me even though I had no control over what happened that night. I had been spiked with a date rape drug, the same drug classification as Rohypnol or other stuff like Xanax, diazepam, benzos, pretty strong nervous system depressants or suppressants. But instead, the individual I'm going to mention spoke about this as if I was fully sober and as if I had planned to go in there and cause all of this with my ex. To the person I hurt most, and this is not the person I'm going to mention, I want to give you a proper in-person message someday. I'll probably never get that chance, but I've never been able to contact you properly since then. But I want to say properly that I am sorry. The person I was for the tail end of last year was not the person I normally am. The extensive traumatic experience I went through in June last year completely sent me off track. It turned me into a vile, disgusting and selfish addict who projected my feelings onto people they care most about. I'm so sorry that I never got to tell you this apology in person, and I never got a chance to speak to you again after those 2 calls. I wanted to give you space after attempting to reach out and apologise in March of this year. I wanted to properly speak to you, acknowledge my faults and my issues, and hopefully be there for you to vent your frustrations to the person who partially created them. While I stay silent, not a day has gone by where I don't think about you, or how I could have fixed everything we went through, or how I wish I could have prevented what happened. But if I never get the chance, please consider this the first apology of what a proper in-face apology I want to give to you. But while we both stayed silent on it to a degree, there was someone who didn't. What also happened after this was one of the friends I used to be friends with began vague tweeting and subtweeting throughout the year, calling me many things and even insinuating that I was a sexual offender, when none of that happened. This was how he portrayed me to other individuals, including individuals that I'm friends with within the furry YouTube community. He also holds a vendetta against me because I removed him from a single Telegram chat because I was uncomfortable with the presence of someone who was currently and actively lying to other individuals about me. And so now he's pissed off and prays for my downfall. I want to just be remindful of everyone, this individual does not have a job, has no college qualifications, has no life outside of YouTube, no public facing or in-person life with anyone near him besides his family, but he focuses and is obsessed with me. My only advice here to this individual is to get a life. I've changed my ways, I've become better, I've put in the work to change. Now I feel like you should take this message and change yourself. But on the other side of that, where how I mentioned to my friends that were there that night, they left, they stopped speaking to me and gave me the cold shoulder, instead saying that they would be there for me, and instead took my ex-partner's side, gave him all the support, leading to almost a full suicide attempt in January, that first week of January, after we'd broken up. But they didn't care. That's the thing. They didn't care about me. They cared more about the other individual. But on the other side of it, in the time that I had spoken to many friends over this past 9 months, I told them everything about what happened. They reassured me that what happened isn't uncommon. The fact that people were holding what happened against me while I had been spiked and I was in a hysterical, unconsensual mental breakdown was not right. And I even spoke to a friend who had frequently used benzodiazepines recreationally in the past, and they frequently reassured me that I had no involvement with the things I said, the things that I did, and it was not me speaking. And I was incapable of properly thinking straight throughout that time in January, and even with the other stuff previously of where I'd be drunk all the time. It wasn't me speaking. I wasn't the person I normally am. Now, thankfully, through therapy, I have been getting better and been able to unwind with a lot of that. So the biggest question you may be asking is, where did I go now? Healing hasn't been something I've ever done. I never bothered to. It's something weird about me. So much so that as I am moving forward with my life, I have a lot of self-destructive tendencies from my childhood and from experiences in my childhood, and they continue to haunt me. I also believe that I'm somewhere on the spectrum, and I believe for the last 4 years I have been medically masking myself. What is that? Well, that's when you take drugs that remove a lot of the tendencies of individuals who are on the spectrum. I am in the process of getting an actual diagnosis on all of this, but it has been something that I have suspected since I was a very young child. If you don't know, I use sertraline or Zoloft, and it is commonly prescribed to those with autism or ASD to help regulate mood and emotions. I was prescribed it due to depression and anxiety. Something else that I learned about myself over the last 6 months of me and them having broken up was that I may have been living so far in my life with undiagnosed bipolar disorder, or borderline personality disorder, that's the one. Borderline personality disorder is a disorder that affects how you view yourself and the interpersonal relationships. It's also a paranoid type of disorder. It's also a major impulse disorder, with self-harm being one of the impulses. It was only when I was researching it to be a supportive friend that I realised I was able to correlate every single symptom in my life since my depression began at age 14, which, might I add, is the beginning range of when BPD symptoms show up. But all of my self-harm incidents and suicidal incidents throughout my life have come from impulse. There's never been something where I sit down and plan it out, a specific date or time. I might put a date on it, but that date will come and go. It's not something that I never make plans to do it. It was always impulse. Other impulses that fall under borderline personality disorder include spending habits, extreme spending habits, drug use, alcohol, and that is stuff that I suffer with, are controlling my habits. Another thing that was frequently asked, even by my ex to a nurse on the day when I woke up in that hospital, was that I should be tested for bipolar disorder due to my mood swings and my highest highs, lowest lows that I would experience in a week. That's the difference between BPD and bipolar, is that a lot of mood swings under bipolar take months to properly uptake, whereas BPD can be much faster. Now, there is also rapid cycling bipolar that I am looking towards talking to a psychiatrist to get with, but yeah. Now, it may sound like I'm self-diagnosing myself with a lot of stuff, but I am in the process of getting a formal diagnosis for everything. Back to Zoloft. As I mentioned regarding medical masking, I feel that this helped me in a lot of ways, but it also removed a lot of my tendencies and good parts associated with possibly being an autistic adult. I still need to get tested, but I'm quite sure that thanks to referrals by my SNA teachers and many people throughout my school life at a young age for possibly having autism. Something else with that is my inability to unwind. I cannot calm down. I seem like a calm person in general, but I always bottle things up, and I can never release it in a good way. It always explodes, and that's what causes my major rises and falls of my my mental health. Well, I came up with a 3-step plan of how I will heal. Step 1, remove. I made these cool signs. Step 1, remove. Step 2, consolidate. That means to get back together. No, I don't mean that or bring shit together. Consolidate forces, bring stuff together. Consolidate. And revive. Now, these all have different meanings, and none of them are associated with my ex-partner, by the way, because the way I explained consolidate was not a good way. So, let me explain them. First of all, step 1, remove. Well, removal was the hardest part of my entire journey. This involved removing and disassociating myself from the people that I disliked or people that had major negative impacts on my life and my mental health. And that mostly meant Twitter. Twitter is a fun place, but Twitter Spaces where you get in and there's 70 undiagnosed autistic people screaming their lungs out at one person just doesn't feel good for anyone. But it's also where I always ended up, injecting mental poison into my fucking brain by going into these stupid Twitter Spaces. And it really ruined my mental health. It ruined a lot for me and of me. It took every bit of humanity and allowed me to become a truly hateful, disgusting person. When shouting stuff at someone that you believe or is perceived to be a shit person, it feels justified to use your anger and give them that abuse. But in the true reality of it, and having done commentary for over 8 years now, it doesn't work. I began commentary in the furry fandom in 2016. That was when the whole leafy pyro bullshit sprang up, so I joined in. And it doesn't work because projecting your internal pain and anger takes it away temporarily, but it doesn't permanently give you an outlet to creatively or metaphorically, not metaphorically, but in any sense use that anger for something better. Not only this, but during the same time of 2023, August 2023 to March of this year, I was friends with an individual by the name of Vexium Swift. If you don't know about Vexium Swift, he makes furry meme content. You know the type. You know everyone knows the type. It's where you fake laugh like Jimmy Carr laugh, just a ha 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 ha, fucking fake laughing at stupid shit that 14-year-olds would find funny. And they also have a massive child audience because that content drags in fucking children like a Hoover. But they're also an OnlyFans creator who went famous for sucking their girlfriend's dick or their ex-wife's dick now. Um, but Vexium has and continues to put himself in awful situations surrounding children. At the start of our friendship, I made a video about him, 2 videos actually, and he spoke to me, brought people like his freak of a fucking editor.
Or when asked to. I'm not
You're
saying
the same. You're like the same. By saying that, it's almost like saying, "Do you condemn Hamas?" I'm sorry, but by saying, "Do you condemn feral porn?" You're basically saying, "Do you condemn Hamas?" Like a Zionist.
What?
I'm not calling you a Zionist. I'm not calling you a Zionist, but that's what Zionists do. They will say, "I swear to God, I swear to God, the moment." I will literally go back to Twitter and guess what? I could fucking stalk your account.
Do it.
And the moment you slip up, I will hold that against you. Even if it was an honest mistake, I will hold it against you for the rest of your life.
Sweet, I got an A-logger.
And to speak to me and essentially paint a better picture of who he was. He then would befriend me. Our friendship was weird. Vexium would task me and later Wolfgang with the same thing of to defend him constantly on Twitter. Also having group chats where he would throw Twitter threads in and have people as young as 16 jump in to defend him. And he'd want me and everybody else to jump in and talk shit for him. Whenever we made a video with info directly from him, the info was essentially never correct. And when the video went to utter shit, like it usually did, because I'm not used to doing hit piece videos like he always made me do, the info was essentially never correct. And it would go to shit, as I mentioned. And he would eventually then put the blame onto me for not making the video correctly. And then he would also push me to finish videos at a faster pace, essentially turning my hobby into a job, because that's what he did. It wasn't my content that I was making. It was an extension of his because he quit the commentary community, so he used me and Wolfgang like pawns to do his bidding. He would also talk shit about my ex-partner. In January, February, constantly after our breakup, he would be reading my ex-partner's tweets and reminding me of how much my ex didn't or no longer wanted me anymore. We stopped being friends in April 2024. When a breakdown in communication between Wolfgang caused some fucking stupid shit, Vexium got up his own arse about it, and that's because he has a massive fucking ego. If you're wondering how Vexium Swift is doing now, he went from a prominent furry YouTuber and OnlyFans creator with tons of friends and a wife, to being a divorced, disgraced furry YouTuber with no friends who now makes OnlyFans videos in his father's living room. And in the words of Meek Mill, I used to pray for times like these. Now, step 2, consolidate. This is the part that I didn't explain very well when I showed the cards. Funny thing, the cards are actually written backwards because the camera is flipped. But consolidate. So out of the people I did remove, I needed to then go back through my current friends, explain the situation, and I never left out a detail. If they wanted to stay, they could, or if they wanted to make their own belief about it and leave, that's absolutely fine. Now, every single person I've ever brought this to, Ace, Hund, Novelty, Wolfgang, Fear, Vixen, or 13, Jerry, everyone that I've spoken to about this, even Thabo, was supportive of it. And they believed in me to get better. And that's what I wanted, hopefully, to do. And that's what I am doing currently. After I figured out with my friends and made some new ones, we moved on to the emotional portion of consolidation, which is where I needed to figure out where I was in the world, what part I made up in the fandom, and the addictions that I currently was under, which was at the time alcohol, nicotine, and self-harm. Yes, but I'm used to starting from the ground up. I've jumped from channel to channel and I'm used to being at the lowest lows and the highest highs. So emotions-wise, I had shattered self-esteem, possible BPD, I'm very depressed, I have a lot of dysphoria and body image issues. I sound like fucking Boogie2988 when I'm saying all this. But on the good side of it, I had good stable job, I had good income, I had supportive friends, I'm transitioning and continuing to see effects. I have a good life, I'm very fortunate, and I'm in a privileged position. Now, how can I work on my issues? Well, therapy. I started therapy intermittently in April with BetterHelp, and just the price point made me jump off it. But I started again with a therapist in my local town in the 1st of August 2024. I have making good progress with a therapist, and they are very good for my mental health. You need a therapist that gels well with you and you can kind of talk to. This therapist is really good because they ask questions about the stuff I say to get a deeper routing to what's going on in my head. And I can talk to them about absolutely anything, so they're just generally really nice. And I'm so glad to actually have them to speak to. And then the second part of it is serving cunt. Now, you may say, what? What drug is that? It's no drugs. But living unapologetically as myself has been the biggest thing that I could have done. Realizing that essentially faking it till you make it with people doesn't work anymore. It's better to just be yourself and live your life how you want to live your life. Wearing what I want, acting how I want, and it's hard to learn this stuff because it's terrifying, especially as a trans woman. And I do get comments. But how I justify it is I don't care what scumbags' opinions mean. If they don't know me, then who cares? The final step on our journey today is revival. One of my favourite artists, Joost Klein. I know many of my friends have all heard about him. I'm obsessed with him. He's the guy who made fucking Europapa.
Hello, the Netherlands. I love you so much, so dearly. The place I grew up and the place I will die. That is you, my friend. I am inside of you right now. And I hope you will come inside.
And he is just an amazing artist in general. He's absolutely an amazing artist. And one of the things he's always said, and one of the videos that I love deeply, is when he said that you should use your trauma to propel you in a new direction. Don't just let your trauma be a burden. And that is something I've fully adopted. In the last 6 months, I've pushed myself out of the box to meet new people, live my life as a stupid teenager, because I'm finally getting to live in the body that I want to. Because as I mentioned, most of my teenage years were absolute dog shit, and I was trapped inside for all of them. The good thing about reliving those years is now that I have money. So I went to as many gay clubs as I could, as many gay events. As Gambit from Wolverine versus Deadpool says, I'm gonna make a name for myself.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
And I did in the Irish community. I jumped out there, met hundreds of new people. I'd walk into an event and leave with 30 different people's Instagrams that I wouldn't talk to all of them, but it's good to make those connections, you know? For some reason in my community, people, and at least the trans women that I speak to, say that they want to be like me. I don't believe them, but they do say it. The main reason I don't believe them is because I don't want you to be like me and deal with the shit that I do. And I don't see why anyone would want to be me, but, you know, uplifting people is part of something that I've always enjoyed, and people seem to enjoy my videos and my presence. But I wanted to officiate my true birth and rebirth as a person in a city that has no rules, a city that was born to be wild, and a city that is the crown jewel of liberty in Europe. Now, it's not Kabul, Afghanistan, and it's not Miami, Florida. Although in those things, as a trans woman, I'd have an equal amount of time to be killed. But I wanted to return to the wild city of Amsterdam, a city I was previously in with my ex-partner, and a city that I've seen none of, and I wanted to wander and maybe live in one day. We also have a guest appearance from a beautiful Dutch furry, and if you're watching this, it's likely that on the 26th I will be on his podcast or a show that he does called Digging Up Positivity, giving more of an interview surrounding what we did and where I'm going from. So your general question is, how did that trip go? Amsterdam for me was amazing. It was life-changing. It was brain chemistry altering. It was unbelievable. Now, many people may say why, especially Dutch furs that do watch this video may say, oh, why? Because Ireland is still a very Catholic country. As much as we don't like to admit it, it's still a very Catholic country. And it's so hard to be a trans person or a queer person here purely because of the stigmatism surrounding that. And as American politics so slowly sifts into who we are and our communities, it's only causing more division. It's hard and it's awful to be a trans person here in Ireland, especially because both you kind of face the world. It's just you against the world, Scott Pilgrim style, because the healthcare is not there, so there's no governmental assistance at all. And the people are close-minded fucking idiots, or at least the majority of who I've met. And most of their news comes from online and not from speaking to normal human beings. So going to a city where I got no shit, in the 5 days I was there for wearing what I want, I got no shit. And it was just unbelievable. The two best days for me were day 3 and day 4, just before I went home. On day 3, I met my friends Sam and Maria, who I had previously met in Dublin when they were on holiday. I met them at their house in Warden, and we cycled from their house to the train station because so that they, when they got drunk when we got finished in Amsterdam, they could cycle home. It was fucking brilliant because they're not drunk driving. But they were just amazing people to meet again, and it was one of the best times I've had going out with people. And it was a very wholesome night. It wasn't even like it wasn't a wild night. We didn't go clubbing, we just went for a few drinks and Korean barbecue. Then day 4 was the absolute highlight of my entire trip, and not for the reason why you probably believe. It wasn't, oh, we went fucking ultra clubbing, done 75 lines of heroin, and then sucked each other off. But it needs a lot of introduction because, as I mentioned, this day hit me emotionally harder than any other way, but not in a bad way. It was as I said before, it was the absolute highlight of my trip. It was a surreal experience, and I had a day with Thabo Meerkat, the furry YouTuber from the Netherlands, and a huge community activist and community organizer in the Netherlands. He was even in the paper that I got while I was over there. He was on the front page and had a whole page in there. It was kind of cool. I'm sweaty as fuck, but I'm sat outside Exo Blue Square, where me and my ex-partner stayed. And I felt it was important to come back and experience a place that I'd been in but I'd seen fucking nothing of. So it was so odd that we stayed in the hotel but we never explored around it. When you look at the place around it, that little hotel, there's entire shopping centres and other markets around it that we never seen. So coming back and taking shit tons of photos has been a good experience. So now I'm going to hop back on the tram back to Amsterdam Central. But there is some weird thing. I seen a familiar face in the newspaper, and someone who I'm going to be spending the day with later on down the line this week. But yeah, I've been enjoying myself. Really artsy kind of bullshit I've been up to. So yeah. And I bought that in the Decamart in Slaughtermallen, but yeah, it was absolutely amazing. In Hilversum, we exchanged the flags of our nation, and I accidentally made the Dutch flag look like the French flag. Very sorry for that, Thabo. But we took this video in front of the Hilversum Tower, which is the largest tower in the Netherlands, and that was the beginning of a beautiful day. We just drove around with 2 other friends, Mavi and Drias, and it was amazing. I genuinely can't put into words how much it was. Like, I mentioned that I love trains because I love everything trains, planes. I don't like cars, but I like trains and planes. But hearing that, Thabo brought me to the Utrecht Train Museum, and it was amazing. I have to show you. I got a plushie there. Me and Thabo split the plushie, so they have the other half of this plushie. But it's so stupid. It's so stupid, but I love it. I love I'm very childish. I'm stood on my fucking headphone cable. But we got this plushie of an NS train, and it stays firmly on my nightstand as a beautiful reminder of the friends I have all over the world. But it was just so surreal. After the Utrecht Train Museum, we went on a joyride around the east of the Markermeer, which is the huge lake in the centre of the Netherlands. And we drove over to Autobiography, which is one of the massive dams in the middle of the lake, and where I got this photo, one of my favourite photos that's ever been taken of me. And we ended up in the city of Hoorn. Hoorn. We stayed with Mavi, their family. We went to go meet their family, and it was so funny because they thought I was Dutch. So when I walked into the house, they just went, oh, and just like, hoi, how you, and start speaking, start speaking in Dutch to me. And I just stared at them, awkwardly not responding until Mavi had to tell them, oh yeah, she's Irish, she doesn't speak Dutch. Stayed with Mavi's family for a while. We got food at this adorable little restaurant in Hoorn. Before we left, Mavi and me, Drias and Thabo went home. And I was dropped off at the beautiful Amsterdam Sloterdijk station, one of my favourite train stations I've ever been in. But it was weird, and the highlight of this day was I had this epiphany while we were driving from the city of Almere to Lelystad to cross the Hotterbuik. The Americans are going to be so confused. But the sun was slowly beginning to set, it was starting to become the evening. It was just a beautiful coastline, the lake, and we were just driving with 4 people that I didn't know at the start of the day, but it felt like I was driving with family. It felt like I could genuinely relax with these people and let my guard down. They were lovely. I felt good. I told Thabo that I felt like I was driving with family, and for the first time I felt like I had a place somewhere, and I had a place to be myself somewhere, where I didn't have to pretend to be someone else or tone my own self down. And it was crazy. It was unbelievable. And I flew back the next day, but I can't thank the 3 of them enough. Spending time with them was a new core memory of mine. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. But yeah, the conclusion of this video, and it's also time to boost my viewers' ego and my friends, was it worth it to try and heal, and am I still healing? Well, yes. I am healing as I go through this year. I'm becoming a better person, better than I was last year and better than I was even before, through the help of therapy and finding myself properly with people who care about me, as well as getting myself away from drama spheres and wanting to create funnier content and content that I truly enjoy, not being someone else's lapdog and watchdog for what they want to do. You need to glow up after a breakup. You need to, and this doesn't mean, oh yeah, fuck my ex, fuck that bitch, I need to be better than them. But you have to show your ability to grow on your own. Show your ability to live as a human being, and show your ability to enjoy yourself outside of them and their feelings. That's what I've been able to do this entire year, just focusing on making new friends, meeting new people, and just being the best version of myself that I can be. And it's helped me so much to push through this mental block that I had. And it feels weird making a video again, just because of how long it's been. And when it comes to the biggest way that I do what I do is when don't value random people's opinions of you, especially people on the street. Like randomers who will walk past by you, that's this version that they see of you now is the only version they're ever going to have. And their opinion shouldn't matter, because you're a constantly changing human being. Your cells produce different cells every day. You lose an entire body's worth of skin in 2 weeks. You are constantly changing, and the cells in your body today will not be there tomorrow. And you won't be the same person. Yes, you may be the same person to other people, but on a physical, atomic level and cellular level, you are not the same person. You have been replaced with new cells to keep your body moving forward and keep your body growing. And that's what you need to do. whenever anything this catastrophic happens. You need to live your life. Get the fuck off Twitter, touch grass, and please meet actual humans. Realize the tone you give. Express yourself. Wear that dress. Go to that night out. Attend that Furmy. Go to that con. Meet as many fucking people as you can. Our world has become so digitalized, and so has our fandom. It's comical. It's so centralized on places like Twitter where nobody's happy. Nobody's ever happy on Twitter. And it's just others bullshitting and taking issues with people for no reason to prove they're a better human when they won't go outside and actually spend time with real people. It's fucking stupid. And you know how you beat the stupid little wankers that you may find annoying on Twitter? Put the phone down, go outside, speak to people. Say hello to a stranger on the street. Smile at them. Be nice. Be kind. Treat people how you want to be treated. Live your life. That's the baseline of this video. And that's Labb Ratt's entire lesson for this video. Live your life. Prove to your ex that you were... Okay, I can't say that. But yeah, my name is Labb Ratt. I don't know if I'm fully back in content creation mode, but thank you very much for watching.